Park Hana pressed her face against the transparent wall of the observation corridor, her breath fogging the glass. Stars stretched endlessly beyond the massive station that hung in the void of space. The Celestial Archive was bigger than any human city, home to thousands of aliens from hundreds of different worlds. She had dreamed of this moment for years, and now she was finally here. "Stop gawking like a tourist," Choi Deun said sharply. The older woman walked with rigid posture, her hands clasped behind her back. As humanity's senior ambassador to the station, Dae-Yoon had fought hard to secure positions for young humans like Hana. She expected perfection in return. Hana pulled herself away from the window and hurried to catch up with the tour group. Aliens of every imaginable shape surrounded her. Some walked on four legs, others floated in containment fields. One being was made entirely of blue light, its voice a musical hum that made her teeth ache. They were all here for the same reason: diplomatic training and cultural exchange. The guide for today's tour was unlike anything Hana had ever seen. Elder Vorath stood nearly 3 meters tall, his body covered in scales that shimmered like polished metal. His eyes were ancient and intelligent, glowing with an inner fire. 2 massive wings folded against his back, and when he moved, the floor trembled slightly beneath his weight. "I am Draxith," Vorath said, his voice rumbling through the corridor. "My kind has walked the stars for 10,000 of your years. We are warriors, scholars, and protectors of the ancient ways." The group followed him in respectful silence. Even the usually chattering aliens seemed subdued in his presence. Hana had read about the Draxith during her studies. They were considered among the most powerful and respected species in the galaxy. Their word carried weight in the council, and their judgment was rarely questioned. "Today you will see our sanctuary," Vorath continued. "This is a great honor. Few outsiders are permitted within our private spaces." They passed through 3 security checkpoints, each requiring biometric scans and voice authorization. The air grew warmer as they descended deeper into the station's core. Hana could feel her heart beating faster with excitement and nervous energy. The sanctuary doors opened with a soft hiss. Inside was a massive chamber that mimicked a natural habitat. Artificial sunlight streamed from panels overhead, and the ground was covered with something that looked like silver sand. Rock formations jutted up at odd angles, creating caves and hiding spots. The temperature was pleasantly warm, almost hot, and there were dragons everywhere. Adult Draxith lounged on the rocks, their scales reflecting rainbow patterns in the light. Some were grooming each other with careful attention, while others seemed to be engaged in quiet conversation, their voices too low for Hana to hear clearly. But what caught her attention most were the small ones. Draxith cubs tumbled and played in the center of the sanctuary. They were about the size of large dogs, their scales still soft and not yet fully hardened. They chased each other around the rocks, making chirping sounds that were surprisingly cute, coming from creatures that would one day grow into massive dragons. "Our young are precious to us," Vorath said, and his tone carried a weight of warning. "No being touches a Draxith cub. This is our most sacred law. To threaten our young is to invite death." Several aliens in the group nodded knowingly. One being that looked like a walking tree actually took a step backward, as if even proximity might be dangerous. "Why?" Hana asked before she could stop herself. Everyone turned to look at her. Daeun's expression could have frozen water, but Vorath seemed merely curious. "Why do we protect our young human?" "No, I understand that," Hana said quickly. "I mean, why can't anyone touch them? If they're supervised and safe, I don't see the harm in—" "Because," Vorath interrupted, "our young are vulnerable. Their scales are soft. Their minds are still forming. And every species we have encountered has proven untrustworthy at one time or another. We protect them absolutely. This is not negotiable." The finality in his voice ended the conversation. The tour continued, with Vorath pointing out various features of the sanctuary and explaining Draxith customs. Hana tried to pay attention, but her eyes kept drifting to the cubs. They moved so differently from the adults. Where the grown Draxith were dignified and controlled, the young ones were chaotic and playful. She watched one cub try to climb a rock face, slip, tumble down, and immediately try again with renewed determination. It reminded her of human children, that same stubborn refusal to give up. The group began moving toward the exit. Hana was about to follow when she heard something. It was a high-pitched sound, almost beyond the range of human hearing, but not quite. A distress call. She turned and saw one of the cubs separated from the others, tangled in what looked like an energy barrier near the far wall. The cub was struggling, its movements becoming weaker. Blue sparks crackled around its small body where it touched the barrier. Hana looked around. None of the aliens seemed to notice. Even the adult Draxith were facing away, engaged in their own activities. The automated systems that should have detected the problem stayed silent. "Ambassador Choi," Hana called out, but the tour group was already passing through the exit, and her voice was lost in the shuffle of movement. The cub made that sound again. Weaker this time. Every rational part of Hana's brain screamed at her to walk away. She had just been told in no uncertain terms that touching a Draxith cub was forbidden. She was representing humanity, and any mistake could have consequences far beyond herself. But the cub was dying. She could see it in the way its struggles were slowing down, in the dimming light of its eyes. Hana made her decision in a heartbeat. She broke away from the group and ran across the sanctuary floor. Behind her, she heard Daeun shout her name, heard the alarm in voices speaking a dozen different languages. But she didn't stop. The cub saw her coming. Its eyes widened with fear and it tried to pull away, but the barrier held it trapped. Hana dropped to her knees beside it, careful not to touch the crackling energy field. "It's okay," she said softly in Korean, the language of her childhood, the words her mother had used to comfort her. "I'm here. You're going to be okay." She examined the barrier. It was some kind of security field that had malfunctioned, creating a loop that trapped anything inside. The control panel was just within reach. Hana's hands flew over the interface, using her basic engineering training to override the safety protocols. The barrier flickered and died. The cub collapsed, freed but exhausted. It lay on the silver sand, breathing in rapid, shallow gasps. Its scales were dark with stress and small tremors ran through its body. Hana slowly extended her hand. "Hey there, little one. You're safe now." The sanctuary had gone absolutely silent. She could feel the weight of 100 eyes on her back. The temperature seemed to drop, and she heard the heavy sound of Draxith adults approaching, their claws scraping against stone. But she kept her focus on the cub. It looked at her with enormous eyes, ancient intelligence mixed with childlike fear. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then the cub made a small sound, almost like a question. It lifted its head slowly and took one hesitant step toward her. Hana didn't move, didn't breathe. The cub took another step, then another, and then, with a sigh that seemed to come from deep within its small body, it gently laid its head in her lap. The world seemed to stop spinning. The silence lasted only a moment before chaos erupted. Elder Voreth's roar shook the entire sanctuary. The sound was primal and terrifying, filled with rage that transcended language. 2 other adult Draxith materialized from the shadows, their scales bristling with fury. The temperature plummeted so rapidly that frost began forming on the observation windows. Hana felt the cub press closer against her, seeking protection. Its small body trembled and she instinctively wrapped her arms around it. She knew she should let go, should stand and back away, but her body wouldn't obey. Every human instinct screamed at her to protect this frightened creature. "Don't move." Daeun's voice cut through the tension. The older woman had returned to the sanctuary entrance, her face pale but controlled. "Hana, stay absolutely still." The 3 adult Draxith formed a semicircle around Hana and the cub. Their eyes blazed with light that hurt to look at directly. Energy crackled between their scales, building with deadly intent. Hana had read about Draxith combat abilities. They could emit sonic waves powerful enough to shatter bone, generate heat that could melt metal, and their physical strength was legendary. She was going to die. The realization settled over her with strange calmness. But the cub in her lap shifted, making a soft chirping sound. It looked up at its elders and chirped again, louder this time. The adult Draxith froze. Voreth took a step forward, his massive head lowering until his eyes were level with Hana's. She could see her reflection in those ancient burning eyes. Could feel the heat radiating from his scales. "Explain," he said, and the single word carried the weight of absolute authority. Hana's mouth was dry. She swallowed hard and forced herself to speak. "The barrier malfunctioned. Your child was trapped. The automated systems didn't register the problem. No one else saw. I couldn't just leave it there to die. You were told not to touch our young. I know. You chose to disobey. I chose to help." The words hung in the air between them. Around the sanctuary, more Draxith had gathered. Hana could see dozens of them now, watching from rocks and ledges. The entire clan was here witnessing this moment. Vorath straightened to his full height. The penalty for touching a Draxith cub is death. This has been our law for millennia. Then I guess I die, Hana said quietly. She looked down at the cub which had fallen asleep in her lap, exhausted from its ordeal. But at least this one lives. Something shifted in Vorath's expression. The fury didn't disappear, but something else joined it. Something that might have been confusion or perhaps grudging respect. Take the human to the holding chamber, he commanded. We will convene the council. Security drones appeared, floating devices equipped with restraint fields. Hana carefully lifted the sleeping cub and placed it on the sand, then stood on shaking legs. The drones surrounded her, and she walked out of the sanctuary without looking back. The holding chamber was a small, sterile room with walls that shifted color slowly from blue to purple. Hana sat on the single bench and buried her face in her hands. The adrenaline was wearing off and reality crashed over her in waves. She had just destroyed everything. Humanity's position in the Galactic Council was already fragile. They had been members for only 3 years, and many species still viewed them with suspicion. Humans were too emotional, too unpredictable, too quick to act without thinking, and now she had proven them right. The door opened. Dione entered, her expression unreadable. She sat down beside Hana without speaking for a long moment. That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen anyone do, Dione finally said. I know. You could have gotten yourself killed. I know. You've probably destroyed your career before it even started. I know that too. Dione sighed. So why did you do it? Hana looked up, meeting the older woman's eyes. Because it was a child, Ambassador. A frightened, hurt child. I couldn't just walk away. It wasn't a human child. Does that matter? The question seemed to surprise Dione. She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again. After a moment, she shook her head. To most species? Yes, apparently it does. Over the next several hours, Hana learned just how serious the situation had become. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from 40 different species argued about what should be done. Some called for Hana's immediate expulsion from the station. Others demanded harsher punishment. A few defended her, but they were in the minority. Ambassador Lee Minseo, humanity's chief representative to the council, came to speak with her. He was a thin man with tired eyes and the weight of his species' future on his shoulders. They're calling it reckless human arrogance, Minseo said, sitting across from Hana in the holding chamber. They say humans can't be trusted to follow basic protocols, that we let emotion override logic. I'm sorry, Hana whispered. Are you? Minseo leaned forward. If you could go back, would you do it differently? Hana thought about the cub, tangled in the barrier, its life fading. She thought about its head in her lap, the trust in its eyes. No, she said. I wouldn't, Minseo smiled sadly. That's what I was afraid you'd say. That's what makes you human. Dr. Kang Jiwoo arrived the next day. He was a specialist in interspecies psychology, brought in to analyze what had happened. He was younger than Hana expected, with gentle eyes and a calm demeanor that immediately put her at ease. Tell me exactly what you heard, Jiwoo said, before you saw the cub. Hana described the high-pitched sound, the distress call that had cut through everything else. Jiwoo's eyes widened. Interesting. None of the other species reported hearing anything. The automated systems didn't register a distress signal either. Maybe I imagined it. Or maybe, Jiwoo said slowly, you heard something they couldn't. He left to run tests, leaving Hana alone with her thoughts. The hours dragged by. She slept fitfully on the chamber's bench, haunted by dreams of burning eyes and ancient voices. On the third day, she was summoned to appear before the tribunal. The chamber was enormous, with seating for hundreds of beings. Hana stood in the center, surrounded by representatives from dozens of worlds. Their voices washed over her in waves of untranslated speech, though the main proceedings were conducted in standard galactic. The charges were read. Violation of diplomatic protocol. Endangerment of protected species. Causing an interspecies incident. Each one felt like a weight added to her chest. Then Vorath himself entered the chamber. The entire room fell silent. The massive Draxith walked slowly to the center. Stopping beside Hana, she could feel heat radiating from his scales. I have heard the accusations, Vorath said, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. I have listened to debates about human nature and human reliability. But none of you were there. None of you saw what I saw. He turned to look down at Hana. This human broke our sacred law. This is true, but she did so not out of arrogance or disrespect. She did so because she heard our child's cry when no one else could. She risked her life for a being not of her blood, not of her species, not even of her world. Vorath paused, and when he spoke again, his tone had changed. I have lived for 300 years. I have seen countless species come before this council, and I have never seen such instinct to protect the helpless, even at personal cost. He raised his head to address the entire assembly. The human will not be punished. Instead, she will be tested. If she passes, we will know whether humanity deserves its place among us. The chamber erupted in protests and questions. But Vorath's voice cut through them all. Park Hana. From this moment forward, you will be known as Hanathir in our tongue. It means small flame. You will undergo the rite of kinship. You will care for the cub you saved for one full cycle of our homeworld's moon. 30 days by your reckoning. He leaned closer, his breath hot against her face. If the cub rejects you, or if any harm comes to it under your care, humanity will be expelled from this council. Your entire species will bear the consequences of your actions. Hana's legs nearly gave out. The weight of an entire species' future had just been placed on her shoulders. Do you accept? Vorath asked. What choice did she have? Hana straightened her spine and met his burning gaze. I accept. Hana moved into the Draxith sanctuary the next morning, carrying a small bag with her few belongings. The adult Draxith watched her in silence as she walked across the silver sand. Their expressions were unreadable, but she could feel their judgment like a physical weight. A sleeping chamber had been prepared for her in one of the smaller caves. It was surprisingly comfortable, with cushions that adjusted to her body temperature and soft lighting that mimicked natural daylight cycles. But comfort was the last thing on Hana's mind. The cub she had saved waited in the main chamber. In daylight, she could see it more clearly. Its scales were a pale silver color, not yet hardened into the metallic sheen of the adults. Its eyes were large and curious, shifting from blue to green as it observed her approach. Hello again, little one, Hana said softly, kneeling in the sand. I guess we're going to be spending a lot of time together. The cub tilted its head, studying her. Then it took a cautious step forward, sniffed at her extended hand, and made a small chirping sound. Vorath appeared from behind a rock formation, moving with surprising silence for such a massive creature. The cub is called Silverscale. It is 5 months old by your calendar. It should have been named in ceremony last week, but the ritual was delayed. Because of me, Hana said quietly. Because of many things. Vorath settled onto a warm rock, his wings folding with careful precision. You will receive no instruction from us. Draxith believed that care of the young comes from instinct, not teaching. If you possess the right instincts, you will succeed. If not, he didn't need to finish the sentence. For the first few days, Hana simply observed. She watched how Silverscale moved, how it interacted with the environment. The cub was curious about everything, investigating rocks and plants with intense focus. It would stare at insects for long minutes, tracking their movements with predatory precision, even though it was far too young to hunt. She noticed that Silverscale became restless at specific times. After some trial and error, she realized the cub needed to move, to exercise its growing wings and muscles. So she created games, rolling balls of compressed moss for Silverscale to chase, hiding treats in crevices for it to find. The other Draxith watched these activities with what might have been amusement. Or judgment. Hana couldn't tell. At night, Silverscale became anxious when the lights dimmed. The cub would pace and whimper, unable to settle. Hana tried various solutions before remembering something from her own childhood. She began singing, soft Korean lullabies her grandmother had taught her. The effect was immediate. Silverscale would curl up beside her, head resting on its forelimbs, eyes slowly closing as the unfamiliar words washed over it. Within minutes, the cub would be asleep. On the fourth night, Hana felt eyes watching from the darkness. Several adult Draxith had gathered at the cave entrance, listening. When the song ended and Silverscale slept, they silently departed. But the next night, more came, and the night after that, even more. Kim Yuna managed to sneak into the sanctuary on the 6th day. Yuna was Hana's closest friend. a brilliant engineer who worked in the station's maintenance division. She brought food, supplies, and most importantly, moral support. "You look terrible," Yuna said bluntly, setting down her bags. "Thanks," Hana replied, but she was smiling. "It's good to see you too. The whole station is talking about you. Some people think you're a hero, others think you're an idiot." Yuna pulled out containers of human food, real Korean dishes that made Hana's eyes water with gratitude. "I'm still deciding which camp I'm in." They sat together while Silverscale explored Yuna with careful interest. The cub seemed fascinated by her engineering tools, batting at a sonic screwdriver with one claw. "Have you figured out how to care for a baby dragon yet?" Yuna asked. "I'm making it up as I go," Hana admitted. "But I think we're starting to understand each other." As if to prove her point, Silverscale suddenly climbed into Hana's lap and curled up, making contented rumbling sounds. "Okay, that's adorable," Yuna said. "Don't tell anyone I said that." Dr. Kang Jiwoo visited regularly, observing Hana's interactions with Silverscale and taking notes. On the 10th day, he asked to speak with her privately. "I've been analyzing your initial encounter with the cub," Jiwoo said, pulling up holographic displays of audio data. "Look at this frequency range. This is what Silverscale was emitting when it was trapped." The graph showed waves in a specific spectrum. Most of it was within normal range, but one section spiked into frequencies that seemed impossibly high. "Most species can't detect sounds above a certain threshold," Jiwoo explained. "Their hearing simply isn't designed for it. But humans can, at least subconsciously. Our brains process these frequencies as emotional information rather than conscious sound." "So I heard it crying," Hana said slowly. "But not with my ears." "Exactly. You felt it. Your emotional intuition picked up distress that the automated systems and other species completely missed." Jiwoo smiled. "It seems that humanity's emotional nature isn't a weakness after all. It's a form of perception." The revelation was spreading through the council. Species that had dismissed humans as overly emotional were being forced to reconsider. Perhaps these strange newcomers had capabilities that others lacked. By the 3rd week, Hana and Silverscale had developed a genuine bond. The cub followed her everywhere, mimicking her movements and sounds. When Hana practiced her stretching exercises, Silverscale would stretch too. When she ate, the cub would eat. It was like having a devoted shadow. The adult Draxith began engaging with Hana more directly. One afternoon, a massive female with scales like burnished copper approached her. This was Silnara, Silverscale's mother. "You care for my child well," Silnara said. Her voice was softer than Vorath's, but no less powerful. "Better than I expected from a human." "Thank you," Hana said carefully. "Why do you sing to it?" "Because it helps Silverscale sleep. Because music is important to humans. We use it to express things words can't capture." Silnara considered this. "We do not sing, but we tell stories. Would you like to hear the history of our people?" That evening, with Silverscale sleeping peacefully beside her, Hana listened as Silnara recounted tales of ancient Draxith wars and philosophies. It was an honor rarely given to outsiders, and Hana knew it. The stories revealed something important. The Draxith weren't just fierce warriors. They were also poets and thinkers, beings who valued wisdom and loyalty above all else. Their protection of their young wasn't simple aggression. It was born from deep love and the memory of losses suffered over millennia. "Long ago," Silnara said, "we trusted others with our young. We believed that kinship could be universal. But we were betrayed. Species we called friends stole our children, enslaved them, used them as weapons. We swore it would never happen again." "I'm sorry," Hana whispered. "I can't imagine that pain." "No," Silnara agreed. "But perhaps you understand something we had forgotten. That to trust again, someone must be willing to take the first step, even if it is dangerous." As the 30-day cycle approached its end, Hana realized she didn't want to leave. Silverscale had become more than a responsibility. The cub was playful and intelligent, constantly surprising her with new behaviors. It had started trying to fly, launching itself from low rocks and gliding for a few meters before landing in an undignified heap. Hana cheered for every attempt, even the ones that ended with Silverscale tumbling head over tail. The cub would shake itself off and immediately try again, determination blazing in its young eyes. Vorath watched these flying lessons from his usual perch. One evening he descended to speak with Hana. "The trial period ends tomorrow," he said. "The council will convene to judge whether you have succeeded. Has Silverscale rejected me? Hana asked. No. Has any harm come to it? No, in fact it thrives. Then what's left to judge? Vorath's expression might have been a smile, though it was hard to tell with his draconic features. Whether you have learned what we hoped you would learn. Tomorrow we will see. That night Hana sang to Silverscale one last time. The cub pressed close against her, and she could feel its heartbeat strong and steady. Adult Draxith filled the cave entrance more than ever before, listening in silence. When the song ended and Silverscale slept, Silnara spoke from the shadows. You have given my child something I could not. You have shown it that kindness exists beyond our species. That is a gift worth more than you know. Hana stroked Silverscale's soft scales, blinking back tears. It's given me something too. It's shown me that protecting what we love is universal. That maybe we're not so different after all. Tomorrow would bring judgment. But tonight, in this cave filled with the warmth of sleeping dragons, Hana felt she had already found something precious. Understanding. The ceremonial chamber was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Hana stood in the center, Silverscale at her side. The cub pressed against her leg, sensing her nervousness. After 30 days together, they could read each other's moods almost perfectly. Ambassador Lee Minseo sat in the human delegation section, his face carefully neutral. Beside him, Dayan watched with sharp eyes. Yuna had managed to secure a spot in the observer gallery, giving Hana an encouraging smile when their eyes met. The council members took their seats in a circular arrangement around the chamber floor. Vorath stood beside the adjudicator's platform, his wings spread slightly in a formal posture. We are gathered to witness the conclusion of the rite of kinship, the adjudicator announced. She was a crystalline being whose voice chimed like bells. The human Park Hana has completed 30 days of care for the Draxith cub Silverscale. We will now determine if she has succeeded. The cub lives, Vorath stated. It has grown stronger. It shows no fear of the human and actively seeks her presence. By the traditional measures, Hanathir has passed the rite. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some sounded approving, others less so. But tradition is not enough, Vorath continued. We must also consider what this means for the broader relationship between Draxith and humanity. Between our species and the Council. A representative from the Cal Syndicate rose to speak. His name was Rax Vorn, and his species resembled bipedal insects with multifaceted eyes. The Cal had been vocal opponents of human membership in the Council. This entire spectacle is meaningless, Rax Vorn said, his voice sharp with contempt. One human successfully caring for a cub proves nothing about their species. Humans are dangerous. They act without thinking. They let emotion override logic. This incident merely confirms what we already knew. The human heard a distress call that your species could not detect. Dr. Kang Jiwoo spoke up from the human section. Our emotional intuition is a legitimate form of perception. Perhaps one that the Cal lack. Rax Vorn's antennae twitched with anger. Insults will not change facts. Humans are unpredictable wildcards. They will destabilize the careful order we have maintained for centuries. The debate continued for nearly an hour. Hana stood quietly, letting others argue about her worth and humanity's place in the galaxy. Silverscale became restless, making small whimpering sounds. The cub was hungry and tired, ready for its afternoon rest period. It's okay, Hana whispered, stroking the cub's head. Just a little longer. Finally, the adjudicator called for order. We will now proceed with the formal presentation. Park Hana, bring the cub forward so the council may observe its condition. Hana walked toward the central platform, Silverscale trotting beside her. The cub's scales had darkened over the past month, taking on more of the metallic sheen of maturity. It had grown noticeably, now reaching almost to Hana's waist when standing on all fours. They were halfway across the chamber when the sound hit. It was like nothing Hana had ever experienced. A sonic wave that bypassed her ears and struck directly at her nervous system. Pain exploded through her skull and she fell to her knees. Around the chamber, beings cried out in distress, but the worst was Silverscale. The cub shrieked in agony, its body convulsing. The sound was specifically calibrated to trigger fear responses in young Draxith, amplifying their instinctive panic. Silverscale's eyes rolled wildly and its claws scraped against the floor as it thrashed. Through the pain, Hana saw Rax Vorn standing, holding a small device. He had activated a weapon. Right here in the council chamber, you see? Rax Vorn shouted over the chaos. The human cannot protect the cub. She is weak. She fails. The sonic weapon was designed to make Silverscale attack in blind panic, to harm Hana and prove humans couldn't be trusted with Draxith young. It was sabotage disguised as demonstration, but Rax Vorn had miscalculated. Silverscale didn't attack Hana. Instead, even in its terrified state, the cub threw itself between her and the source of the sound. It spread its wings as wide as they would go, shielding Hana's body with its own. Rage flooded through Hana's veins. She had felt fear before and sadness and doubt, but this was something primal, something that transcended thought. Someone was hurting her child. She surged to her feet, ignoring the pain that pounded through her head. Her vision narrowed to a single point: Rax Vorn and his weapon. Later, security footage would show what happened next. Hana crossed the distance between them in seconds. She moved like someone possessed, ducking under the guard drone that tried to intercept her. When Rax Vorn raised the weapon toward her, she didn't flinch. She grabbed his arm and twisted, using leverage and momentum to wrench the device from his grip. The weapon clattered to the floor. Hana kicked it away and stood between Rax Vorn and Silverscale, her body vibrating with protective fury. "Touch that cub again," she said, her voice deadly calm, "and you'll learn what humans do to things that threaten our young." The sonic assault stopped. In the sudden silence, Hana heard running footsteps. More humans had entered the chamber, responding to the attack. Yuna arrived first, her engineer's tools converted into improvised weapons. Minseo was right behind her, moving faster than Hana would have thought possible. Even Daeun joined them, forming a protective circle around both Hana and Silverscale. The adult Draxith had also mobilized. Vorath and Silnara descended on Rax Vorn like avenging storms. The insectoid diplomat tried to flee, but massive clawed hands closed around him, lifting him off the ground. "You dare," Vorath rumbled, "to harm our young in our presence, in this sacred chamber." "It was necessary," Rax Vorn stammered, "to prove the humans are dangerous, to show they cannot be trusted." "You have proven nothing," Silnara said, "except your own cowardice. You attacked a child to make a political point." Security drones swarmed the chamber, but they were unnecessary. Rax Vorn hung limp in Vorath's grip, all his arrogance drained away by the reality of what he had done. Hana didn't care about any of that. She dropped to her knees beside Silverscale. The cub was trembling violently, whimpering in pain and confusion. Its scales had gone dark, almost black, a sign of extreme distress. "I'm here," Hana whispered, gathering the cub into her arms. "You're safe. I've got you." Silverscale buried its head against her shoulder, claws digging into her clothes. Hana held it tight, rocking slowly and humming the lullabies that had become their nightly ritual. Dr. Kang Jiwoo rushed over with a medical scanner. "The cub needs treatment. That sonic weapon was designed to cause neurological damage." "Then treat it," Hana said fiercely. "Whatever it needs." Silnara knelt beside them, her massive form somehow gentle. "My child protected you, human." "I would have protected it," Hana replied, tears streaming down her face. "I tried to. I'm sorry I wasn't fast enough. You misunderstand." Silnara's eyes glowed softly. "Silverscale chose you over its own safety. It decided you were worth protecting even from pain. That is not something that can be taught. That is trust. That is love." The word hung in the air. Love. Between species. Between beings who should have been impossible allies. Vorath dropped Rax Vorn at the feet of the security drones. "Take this creature away. Let the council decide its fate." He turned to face the assembled representatives. "You have witnessed what I witnessed 30 days ago. Humanity's instinct to protect. The human did not flee when attacked. She did not abandon the cub to save herself. She fought, just as we would fight." Other Draxith had gathered now, forming a circle around Hana and Silverscale. They hummed in unison, a deep resonant sound that filled the chamber. It was a sound of approval, of acceptance. The adjudicator floated forward, her crystalline body chiming softly. "It seems the situation has become clear. Park Hana has not only completed the rite of kinship successfully, she has demonstrated that humanity possesses qualities we did not recognize: courage, loyalty, and the willingness to face danger for the sake of others." She raised her voice to address the entire council. "The question before us is no longer whether one human can care for one Draxith cub. The question is whether we will recognize that different species have different strengths, that emotion and intuition are not weaknesses but forms of wisdom we have overlooked. Ambassador Lee Minseo stood. Humanity does not ask for special treatment. We ask only for the same chance we gave Park Hana. The chance to prove ourselves through our actions, not through the prejudices others hold about us. The vote was called. One by one, species representatives indicated their positions. Not all voted in favor. The Cal Syndicate and several allied groups maintained their opposition. But when the count was finished, the result was clear. Humanity would remain in the council. More than that, humans were granted kinship status with the Draxith. It was an honor that had never been extended to another species, a formal recognition of deep alliance. Vorath made the announcement himself. From this day forward, humans and Draxith are kin. An attack on one is an attack on both. This is our law. This is our promise. Hana barely heard any of it. She was focused entirely on Silverscale, who had finally stopped shaking. The cub lifted its head and looked at her with clear eyes. Then it made a sound, a rumbling purr that vibrated through Hana's chest. "Thank you," she whispered to the cub. 3 months had passed since the attack in the council chamber. The Celestial Archive had changed in subtle but important ways. Humans moved through the corridors with more confidence now, and other species no longer viewed them with quite the same suspicion. The title of Draxith kin carried weight that even humanity's skeptics had to acknowledge. Hana stood in the new Human Draxith Cultural Exchange Center, reviewing holographic plans with Yuna. The facility would house both species, with temperature-controlled zones, shared learning spaces, and areas designed for cross-species interaction. "The climate systems are finally balanced," Yuna said, adjusting a projection with her fingers. "We can maintain the heat levels Draxith need without cooking the humans. Took forever to figure out the air circulation patterns. It's perfect," Hana said, smiling. "This is going to change everything." Yuna glanced at her friend. "You know you're famous now, right? There are humans on Earth who want to name schools after you. The girl who touched a dragon is apparently quite the celebrity." Hana made a face. "I hate that title. It makes it sound like I did something reckless just for attention." "Didn't you? I saved a child. That's all." "That's never all with you," Yuna said affectionately. "You don't do anything halfway." The door chimed and Ambassador Lee Minseo entered. He looked different than he had 3 months ago. The exhaustion had lifted from his features, replaced by something that might have been hope. "Hana, do you have a moment?" he asked. They walked together through the observation corridor, watching ships dock at the station's many ports. Beings from across the galaxy moved about their business, a living tapestry of different worlds and cultures. "I want to offer you a position," Minseo said, director of the Cultural Exchange Program. "It's a new role, created specifically for what you've accomplished." "I'm just an intern," Hana protested. "I haven't even finished my xenobiology degree. You've done more for human-alien relations in 3 months than most diplomats achieve in a lifetime." Minseo stopped walking and turned to face her. "We're receiving requests from other species now. They want human mediators for situations involving young or vulnerable populations. Your instincts, your empathy, the qualities we were told were weaknesses have become our greatest asset." Hana looked out at the stars. "What about Silverscale? The program would allow you to continue your bond. In fact, it would require it. You'd be demonstrating that cross-species relationships can thrive." It was everything she had dreamed of, even if she had never imagined it quite like this. "When do I start?" Minseo smiled. "You already have." The following weeks were a blur of activity. The exchange center opened to overwhelming interest. Young humans and Draxith cubs interacted under careful supervision, learning each other's languages and customs. Adult members of both species served as mentors, building relationships that would have been impossible just months before. Hana found herself teaching classes on Draxith behavior and communication. She explained the subtle meanings behind scale color changes, the significance of wing positions, the complex social structures of Draxith clans. Many of the adults took notes furiously, amazed at how much she had learned in such a short time. But her favorite moments were still the quiet ones with Silverscale. The cub had grown significantly. It now stood as tall as Hana's shoulder, and its scales had fully hardened into brilliant silver metal. Its wings were strong enough for sustained flight, though Silverscale still occasionally misjudged landings and tumbled ungracefully. They maintained their evening routine. Every night, Hana would sing the Korean lullabies, and Silverscale would curl up beside her. Sometimes other young Draxith joined them, drawn by the unfamiliar but soothing sounds. Adult Draxith would gather outside, listening in silence. One evening, Silnara approached Hana after the songs ended. "My child must return to our homeworld soon," the Draxith mother said softly. "It is time for Silverscale to learn the ways of our people, to train with other young of its generation." Hana had known this moment would come, but the reality still hit her hard. "How long?" "1 year, perhaps 2. Maybe more. Draxith training is thorough." "I understand." Hana's voice cracked slightly. "It's the right thing. Silverscale needs to be with other Draxith." Silnara studied her with those ancient, intelligent eyes. "You have given my child a gift, Hanathir. It knows that kindness exists beyond our species, that the universe is wider and stranger than we sometimes remember. This wisdom will serve it well." "Silverscale gave me a gift too," Hana replied. "It taught me that love doesn't require words. That understanding can bridge any gap if we're brave enough to try." The departure day arrived too quickly. A Draxith transport ship had docked at the station, ready to carry Silverscale and several other young to their homeworld. The entire human delegation came to see them off, along with dozens of other species who had been touched by the story of the human and the dragon cub. Silverscale stood at the boarding ramp, looking back at Hana. The cub's scales rippled with colors she had learned to read. Sadness, but also excitement, uncertainty mixed with determination. Hana knelt down, bringing herself to eye level. "I'm so proud of you. You're going to learn amazing things and become strong and wise. But remember that you can always come back. This will always be your home too." Silverscale made a sound low and rumbling. Then it pressed its forehead against Hana's. A gesture she had learned was the Draxith way of showing deep affection and eternal bond. "I love you too," Hana whispered. Vorath appeared beside them. "The bond between you will not fade with distance, Hanathir. Draxith do not forget those who matter to them. Silverscale will carry you in its heart." The cub climbed the ramp, pausing once to look back. Hana waved, blinking back tears. Then Silverscale was gone, disappearing into the ship. Yuna put an arm around Hana's shoulders as the transport lifted away from the station. "It's not forever. Just for a while." "I know," Hana said, "but it still hurts." "That's what love does," Dayun said, stepping up beside them. The stern ambassador had softened over the months, showing more of her own heart. "It makes the hard moments harder, but it also makes everything worthwhile." Work continued at the exchange center. More species expressed interest in establishing connections with humanity. The Crystalline Collective wanted to understand human art. The Aquatic Federation requested human researchers to study their youngest members' development. Even some of the Cal Syndicate, though not Rax Vorn, who remained in custody, reached out to apologize and establish dialogue. Dr. Kang Jiwoo published his research on human emotional perception. It became required reading in xenobiology programs across the galaxy. The idea that emotion could be a form of intelligence, a way of processing information that logic alone might miss, sparked debates and new research initiatives. Humanity was no longer the newcomer to be tolerated. They were becoming an integral part of the galactic community. 6 months after Silverscale's departure, Hana received a transmission. It was marked with Draxith encryption, and when she opened it, her heart leaped. The hologram showed Silverscale on the Draxith homeworld. The cub had grown even larger, its body now showing the powerful muscles of adolescence. But those eyes were the same, brilliant and intelligent. Silverscale made a series of sounds and a translation appeared below. "Hello, Hanathir. I'm learning many things. I fly better now, see?" The recording showed Silverscale launching from a cliff and soaring through ruby-colored skies. Wings spread wide and strong. The flight was graceful, controlled, nothing like the clumsy attempts from months before. "I miss you." The translation continued. "I sing your songs to the others. They think human music is strange, but I like it. I will come back when my training is complete. We will fly together. This is my promise." The recording ended with Silverscale pressing its forehead close to the camera, replicating the gesture of affection. Hana watched the transmission 3 times, then sent a response. She told Silverscale about the exchange center, about the new humans and Draxith who were forming bonds. She sang a lullaby, recording it so Silverscale could hear. More transmissions arrived over the following months. Silverscale sent images of the homeworld, videos of training exercises, stories about new experiences. Hana responded with news from the station, with songs, with reminders that she was proud and that she was waiting. A year passed. Then another. The exchange center expanded, adding facilities for other species. Humans were now serving as mediators in conflicts across dozens of sectors. Their ability to understand emotional undercurrents that other species missed made them valuable in negotiations and peace talks. Hana had become one of the galaxy's leading experts on cross-species bonding. She had written papers, given lectures, trained others, but she never forgot that it all started with one frightened cub and a moment of instinct. On a quiet evening in her 3rd year at the station, Hana stood on the observation deck watching ships come and go. The stars stretched infinitely in all directions, and she thought about how far humanity had come. The communication panel chimed. Incoming transmission priority level. Hana opened it and felt her heart stop. I am coming home, Silverscale's message said. My training is complete. I will arrive in 3 days. Prepare to fly, Hanathir. I have much to show you.